Deep in the hollows of Appalachia, long before anyone had ever heard of a chemical bug spray, mountain families kept their porches, gardens, and cabins remarkably free of mosquitoes, using nothing more than what grew right outside their back door. Grandmothers passed these secrets down the same way they passed down quilting patterns and canning recipes, plant by plant, season by season, without ever needing a laboratory to prove what generations of experience had already confirmed. Today, we are walking through 11 of those exact plants, the same ones still growing in gardens across Kentucky, Tennessee, West Virginia, and North Carolina, each one carrying its own scent, its own folklore, and its own quietly proven ability to send mosquitoes looking for a meal somewhere else. No sprays, no chemicals, no plug-in devices, just plants doing what plants have always done. Number 1 is lavender, and if you have ever walked past a lavender bush on a warm afternoon, you already understand why mountain families planted it so close to their front doors. Lavender carries a sweet, unmistakable fragrance that has been tucked into drawers and hung from rafters for generations, valued for keeping linens smelling fresh. But that same fragrance that delights the human nose is genuinely unbearable to mosquitoes, moths, fleas, flies, and a whole range of garden pests. In Appalachian dooryard gardens, the plant most old-timers dedicated to places right along a sunny walkway or directly beside the porch steps, because lavender needs plenty of sun to release its strongest oils, and a doorway placement means every person walking in and out brushes against the leaves, releasing even more of that natural repellent scent into the air. Some families would gather lavender into small bouquets and set them on windowsills or hang them upside down to dry above the kitchen table, letting the scent work double duty as both decor and pest control. If you want the maximum effect from lavender today, the advice has not changed in 100 years. Keep it in full sun, keep it near entryways, and do not be afraid to crush a few leaves between your fingers when you walk by, because the oil released by that light bruising is where the real repellent power lives. Number 2 is basil, and this is a plant that earns its spot in nearly every Appalachian kitchen garden for reasons that go well beyond flavor. Basil is genuinely excellent at doing double duty, driving away both mosquitoes and flies at the same time, which made it a natural companion planted right alongside tomatoes on the edge of a vegetable patch. You can grow it in a container on a porch rail or seed it directly into garden soil, and either method works just fine. Sweet basil is the variety most commonly found in older mountain gardens, though Genovese basil, the type more familiar to modern cooks, carries the same repellent properties and works just as effectively. The trick with basil, according to generations of mountain gardeners, is to let a few stems grow tall and a little wild near doorways and windows, rather than keeping every plant neatly trimmed for the kitchen. Because the more surface area exposed to sun and air, the stronger the natural oils become. And the stronger those oils, the less mosquitoes want anything to do with the area. Number 3 is mint, and this might be the single most common repellent plant found in Appalachian gardens simply because it is nearly impossible to kill and spreads itself without much encouragement at all. Mint is a kitchen herb most families already had on hand for tea and cooking, but it carries the added benefit of keeping away mosquitoes, flies, and ants wherever it takes root. Potted mint set near a doorway or a patch allowed to spread along a patio edge creates a natural barrier that pests tend to avoid crossing. One detail that made mint especially valuable to families with young children is that crushed mint leaves, or a small amount of mint oil rubbed gently on skin, has long been considered one of the gentlest and safest mosquito-repelling options available, far softer than many other remedies, which mattered a great deal in households without easy access to a doctor for every skin irritation. Because mint spreads aggressively, many mountain gardeners learned the hard way to keep it contained in a pot or a bordered bed. Otherwise, it will happily take over an entire garden within a single growing season. Number 4 is chrysanthemums, and this flower carries a reputation in Appalachian folk gardening that goes far beyond simple decoration. The intense scent and natural oils found in chrysanthemum blooms have long been recognized as having genuine repellent properties against many varieties of flying insects. Chrysanthemums are known to repel ticks, fleas, ants, Japanese beetles, and a wide range of other garden pests that plague mountain homesteads through the warmer months. The reason lies in a naturally occurring compound found inside the plant called pyrethrin, a neurotoxin that is remarkably effective at disrupting the nervous systems of insects while remaining safe around household pets and larger animals. This is precisely why chrysanthemums show up so often planted in rings around chicken coops, dog houses, and garden beds throughout the mountains, offering protection to the animals living nearby without putting those same animals at any real risk. Number 5 is lemongrass, a plant that may not have originated in the Appalachian Mountains, but found a welcome home there once traders and travelers introduced it, largely because its effectiveness against biting insects was simply too good to ignore. Lemongrass has been shown to be an effective repellent against both mosquitoes and houseflies, and further studies into its properties suggest it works particularly well as a deterrent against stable flies as well. The kind of aggressive biting fly that plagues barns and livestock through the summer months, mountain families who kept horses, cattle, or chickens often planted lemongrass near barn entrances and animal enclosures, specifically because of this dual benefit, protecting both the people and the animals sharing the same patch of land. The plant grows in tall, grassy clumps and releases its strongest citrus-like fragrance when the blades are bent or crushed, so brushing past a lemongrass planting on your way to the barn does double work, releasing scent while you walk. Number 6 is allium, the broad family of plants that includes onions, garlic, and chives, and mountain gardeners have long understood that alliums do far more than flavor a meal. Alliums are known to keep away not only mosquitoes, but a whole range of other troublesome insects, including aphids, carrot flies, and cabbage worms, making them one of the most versatile plants a garden can host. Beyond their pest-fighting reputation, ornamental alliums with their round purple flower heads add a genuine touch of beauty to a garden bed, which is part of why they were so often planted along garden borders, rather than tucked away in some forgotten corner. What makes alliums especially valuable in a working vegetable garden is their compatibility with companion planting. They perform particularly well when placed near tomatoes, potatoes, and carrots, offering those more vulnerable crops a layer of natural protection simply by sharing the same row. Number 7 is sage, a plant that carries a long-standing reputation across Appalachian herb gardens for getting rid of ants, flies, and mosquitoes all at once. Sage has been relied upon for generations specifically because of this broad spectrum effectiveness, earning it a permanent spot in nearly every mountain kitchen garden, alongside the more commonly cited culinary herbs. What is particularly interesting is that research into sage's repellent properties has actually put a number on its effectiveness, finding that simply keeping a pot of sage nearby can offer up to 32% protection against mosquitoes, a meaningful reduction for something as simple as a potted plant sitting on a porch step. Many older Appalachian households would burn a few dried sage leaves in a small dish during particularly buggy evenings, letting the smoke drift across the porch, combining the plant's natural oils with the additional deterrent effect that smoke itself has on flying insects. Number 8 is catnip. And while most people immediately think of the effect this plant has on house cats, mountain families have long known that catnip carries genuine bug repellent properties well beyond anything related to feline behavior. Catnip contains a naturally occurring essential oil that helps deter both houseflies and mosquitoes, making it a surprisingly practical addition to a garden meant to keep pests at bay. What makes catnip particularly noteworthy is that further studies into its properties have found catnip oil to actually be more effective as a spatial repellent than the synthetic compound found in many popular commercial insect repellents. That is a remarkable claim for a plant most people associate purely with cat toys, and it speaks to just how much genuine chemistry is hiding inside these old-fashioned garden remedies that mountain families relied on decades before anyone thought to test them scientifically. Number 9 is rosemary, a woody, fragrant herb that earns its place on this list for a very specific and very practical reason: protecting outdoor gatherings from being overrun by biting insects right when everyone is trying to enjoy a meal together. Rosemary may prevent flies and mosquitoes from ruining an evening cookout, and mountain families developed a particularly clever trick for making the most of this property. If the bugs are especially bad, particularly right around dusk when mosquitoes tend to be most active, throwing a few sprigs of rosemary directly onto a hot grill produces an aromatic smoke that genuinely helps drive mosquitoes away from the immediate area. This trick turns a simple herb into an active defense during exactly the moment when insect protection matters most, while a family is gathered outside around a fire or a grill with no walls or screens standing between them and the surrounding woods. Number 10 is geranium, specifically the scented variety, which stands out as one of the most effective mosquito-repelling plants a garden can host. Scented geraniums carry a fragrance remarkably similar to citronella, the compound most people already associate with candles and commercial bug repellent products. And that similarity is not a coincidence. Both plants share related natural oils that insects find genuinely unpleasant. The smell that geraniums produce is detested by both flies and mosquitoes, making it a reliable choice for anyone wanting a living, growing alternative to store-bought citronella candles. Mountain families developed a simple, direct method for putting this plant to personal use, crumpling geranium leaves between the fingers to release the oil, then applying that oil directly to exposed skin before heading outside for an evening chore or a walk down to the creek. It is a method that requires no processing, no distillation, and no special equipment, just the plant itself and a willingness to get a little sticky with natural oil. Number 11, and this is the plant that rounds out our list with perhaps the deepest roots in genuine Appalachian tradition, is elderberry. Elderberry bushes grow wild throughout the mountains, along fence lines, creek banks, and the edges of old homesteads and mountain families have long recognized that mosquitoes tend to avoid areas where elderberry grows thick. The leaves of the elderberry plant carry a strong, somewhat bitter scent that many biting insects find unappealing, and it was common practice to crush a handful of elderberry leaves and rub them along exposed skin before working outside during the buggiest parts of summer. Beyond its repellent properties, elderberry held enormous practical value in mountain households for entirely different reasons. Its berries were transformed into syrups, jams, and wine, making it a plant that earned its place in the garden through multiple forms of usefulness rather than pest control alone. Planting elderberry along the edges of a property line, the way so many mountain families historically did, offers a kind of layered defense. Tall bushes that discourage mosquitoes from settling in the surrounding grass while simultaneously providing fruit for the household later in the season. Taken together, these 11 plants tell a story about how mountain communities solved a persistent, seasonal problem using nothing but careful observation and patient experimentation passed down across generations. Nobody in an Appalachian holler in the 1800s had access to a laboratory to test which essential oils disrupted an insect's nervous system or which natural compounds interfered with a mosquito's ability to detect human skin. What they had instead was decades of watching which plants attracted bugs and which plants seemed to send them elsewhere, and they built their gardens accordingly, placing lavender by the door, mint by the porch, and rosemary within reach of the fire pit, not because a scientist told them to, but because it simply worked year after year, season after season. There is something worth noticing about the pattern running through nearly all 11 of these plants. Almost every single one relies on a strong, distinctive fragrance carried by natural oils held within the leaves or flowers. Oils that only fully release their strength when the plant is warmed by sunlight, bruised by touch, or gently crushed between fingers. This is why so much of the old Appalachian planting wisdom emphasizes placement near doorways, walkways, and porches, spots where people naturally brush against the leaves multiple times a day without even thinking about it. A lavender bush planted in some far corner of a yard, never touched and rarely walked past, will do far less work than the same plant positioned right where hands and legs pass by on the way in and out of the house. The plants are not passive decorations in the system. They are active participants, and their effectiveness depends heavily on how they are placed and how often they get disturbed. It is also worth pointing out that these plants were never intended to work as some kind of impenetrable force field. No garden planting, however thoughtfully arranged, will guarantee a completely mosquito-free evening, particularly during the wettest parts of summer when insect populations explode across the region. What these plants offer instead is a meaningful reduction in mosquito activity around the specific areas where they are planted, which is precisely why mountain families concentrated them so heavily around porches, doorways, and outdoor gathering spaces rather than scattering them evenly and thinly across an entire property. Concentrated defense around the places where people actually spend their time outdoors has always been the more practical strategy, and it remains just as sound today as it was generations ago. For anyone looking to bring this kind of Appalachian dooryard garden into their own backyard today, a simple, sensible approach might start with lavender and rosemary near the front entrance, since both plants thrive in full sun and reward light bruising with a strong burst of fragrance. Mint and catnip can be kept contained in pots near a porch or patio, since both spread aggressively if left unchecked in open soil, but perform beautifully in a controlled container positioned right where people sit and relax. Basil and allium fit naturally into a vegetable garden bed, doing double duty protecting tomatoes, carrots, and potatoes, while also contributing their own repellent properties to the surrounding air. Sage and geranium work wonderfully in decorative borders along a walkway, offering both visual appeal and functional pest control in the same planting. Chrysanthemums can ring the edges of an outdoor living space or sit near any area where pets spend time outside, given their added safety benefit for animals. Lemongrass belongs anywhere near a barn or animal enclosure, and elderberry, given enough space to grow into a proper bush, works best planted along a fence line or property edge, offering both a natural boundary and a long-term source of berries for the household. None of this requires abandoning a favorite candle or a trusted spray entirely. Plenty of families layer both approaches together, keeping the garden planted the old-fashioned way while still reaching for a modern repellent on the buggiest nights of the year. But there is something genuinely satisfying about stepping onto a porch surrounded by lavender, mint, and rosemary, knowing that the plants themselves are quietly doing a portion of the work, the same way they did for the families who lived in these mountains long before store shelves were lined with chemical solutions. It is a small, living connection to a much older way of solving an ordinary, everyday problem. One leaf, one bloom, and one crushed handful of fragrant oil at a time. If you enjoyed learning about these 11 plants and the Appalachian tradition behind them, consider subscribing so you do not miss future videos exploring more of the old mountain wisdom that shaped how families lived close to the land. Share this with anyone who spends their summer evenings fighting off mosquitoes, and let us know in the comments which of these 11 plants you already have growing in your own garden, or which one you are planning to plant first.